Hey guys, so today I want to do a quick little lesson on correct hammer-on and pull-off technique. It's something a lot of people, even intermediate and to a certain extent, some later intermediate guitar players have trouble with. Particularly how to do hammer-ons and pull-offs in quick succession, fast legato lines, that sort of a thing. Basically, a lot of players think that the process for attacking the string for a hammer-on is the same process as removing your string or removing your finger from the string for a pull-off, when in reality the two are sort of asymmetrical, meaning that your finger has to attack the string for a hammer-on differently than it needs to pull away from the string when you're doing a pull-off. So let's start with hammer-ons. If you're going to do a hammer-on just wherever on the neck, right? 5 to 6, A to B flat, or something like that. Any of those. The idea, in order to make it the most efficient you can possibly make it, because let's face it, being efficient equals less energy, equals staying relaxed, less tension. All of that helps prolong your ability to play quickly, to play fast, to play with sharp movements. All those things are what the pros do when we play guitar. That's just sort of the natural process of advancing your technique. And so the way you want to think about this is when you're playing a pull-off, right? Or I'm sorry, a hammer-on. What you want is you want the front knuckle. So this knuckle, the top knuckle of your finger, in this case I'm using my middle finger, you want that to attack the string at the same angle during the entire stroke. So what you don't want your finger to be back here getting ready to play, right? You don't want your finger to be back here and then as it attacks, moving forward and bending, right? So if you look at this position, right, which is the wrong position, the tip of my finger, which is what I'm going to attack the string with, is facing the ceiling. And as I attack, I'm bending my finger to try to aim the tip of my finger towards the string. So what you're doing when you do that actually is you end up using all three knuckles, your big knuckle, your middle knuckle, and your small knuckle. The big knuckle moves the finger towards the string, and the middle and front knuckle end up bending it so that it can sort of aim for the string. Ideally, what you want for a hammer-on is you want to get set in your position, so like this, and literally not move your front knuckle or your middle knuckle. You only move your big knuckle. So now, if you can see, the tip of my finger is no longer pointing at the ceiling, it's pointing exactly at the spot I want to play. Right? And now all I have to do is engage my big knuckle, and I end up keeping my finger in this hook shape and attacking the string with way less movement. And so when you're doing these hammer-ons, if you're just doing hammer-ons, and this goes for every finger, first finger, middle, ring, pinky, and obviously you're going to, depending on the shape, depending on where you're playing on the neck, depending on how many frets you're stretching across, your fingers will be in a variety of different shapes. But the principle of the matter is that you want to keep the movement exclusive to the big knuckle only. So even if I'm spread out real far, like this, right? So like look at my pinky. My pinky is not at perfect 90-degree angle like this because that, is way less ideal for when you're like really quickly playing and you don't have time to get, exactly in that perfect position and reach your arm way down and all this. You can get away with, especially on electric guitar, more of an elongated finger shape like this. But the idea is that I'm not going like this, but once again, I'm just using the big knuckle. See that? Same with the middle finger. Just the big knuckle comes off and engages the finger towards the string. Right? That allows you to keep the aim, the point of contact, in exact line with the string every time. So you don't have to aim as your finger's traveling through the air, right? Because what's going to happen when you aim, I know a lot of you guys out there who do this, right? A lot of my students start playing like this. They start playing with their fingers up and then they try to aim as they're doing hammer-ons. In order to aim like that, you have to like literally slow down as you travel through the air. So you end up getting really, really weak hammer-ons. You should be able to go like this, with no right hand picking at all. With very little problem, right? I mean, even if I did it on acoustic, it would be the same result. I can get a ton of attack. My amp is below number 1, and my volume, I'll even roll my volume back. You know, the volume is not coming from my guitar or my amp. It's coming from the attack of the fingers. And the reason it's coming from that is because I don't have to slow down and try to aim the tip of my finger towards the string, right? That's inefficient, and you literally have to slow down while you're traveling through the air, meaning that instead of hitting the string and like really powering into it, creating a sharp attack, you slow down as you get to the string, and you know, the flesh of your finger sort of wraps around the string like a pillow and softens the blow, softens the attack, and you get this sort of like, you know, like a really, really weak, dull sort of a hammer-on, right? So you don't want that. The whole trick to doing hammer-ons is keeping the movement exclusive to the big knuckles, not having the middle knuckle or the small knuckle move at all. Literally try to do that not at all. And that's hammer-ons. So for pull-offs, the process for doing a pull-off is not the same as doing a hammer-on. Obviously, it can't be. And it's not a reverse motion. It's not like a mirror image. In fact, pull-off is a terrible name. It should be called pull-down. Because essentially what you're doing when you do a pull-off is you're literally plucking the string, like finger-picking the string, but you're doing it with your left hand, right? Or, you know, your fretting hand. So if I do a pull-off, right, once again from B flat to A, or I do it on any string, the second note should be equivalent or even greater in volume to the first note, right? You don't want this. You don't want that. Like B, and then the last one is sort of dull and not even there, right? That's not what you want. The process for doing a correct pull-off is that you're literally yanking the string downward, right? So, I mean, you could essentially do pull-offs with no initial pluck at all. And you hear how each one of those is super crisp and super sharp sounding, right? And so the process for doing that, if I end up here, right, which is sort of like an ideal position for my middle finger to be in, right, I don't pull off like with my big knuckle the way I attacked with a hammer-on. What I actually do is I pull down using my small knuckle, some of my middle knuckle, and my big knuckle almost is sort of like it moves simply as a consequence of the other two moving, right? I don't concentrate on my big knuckle moving at all. I'm literally trying to pull the tip of my finger, or like the front digit of my finger, down into my palm. Like that. And so the motion for a hammer-on and a pull-off is pretty asymmetrical. With a hammer-on, you're attacking from the big knuckle, and with a pull-off, you're actually snapping the finger down using your small knuckle and some of your middle knuckle. So when you're doing sort of back-to-back pull-off, hammer-on, or some combination like that, you actually have to get comfortable with sort of a, it's not exactly a semicircle motion, but if I were to do hammer-ons and pull-offs, right? So if I start with a hammer-on, right, just the big knuckle engaging, and now I'm here. Now, in order to do the hammer-on, again, I have to open up my big knuckle and see the tip of my finger is aiming where I want it to aim. So if I slow that down, I mean, I won't get a good sound because I'm going to go very slowly, but I move forward with the big knuckle, and then I pull down, and I come out, and now the tip of my finger is aiming back again at the string. I engage the big knuckle, And that's the process. So it's this like attack with the hook-shaped finger based from the big knuckle, yank down and out. So down first and then out. Don't just lift your finger off, because if I do a pull-off and just lift my finger off, I get like a real weak sound. I'm literally yanking the string down. Right? And a lot of players end up, when they're doing pull-offs, they end up getting this. You know, so if I do it on a different fret, it'll sound worse. It'll be where I'm actually pulling on the string below it and then causing those strings to ring. So in order to do that, I've got to mute those strings with whatever finger I have behind it. Instead of that, I end up with this. So I can still yank against the A string and I'm just going to get a dead note. So it's pretty much inaudible. So once again, attack with the hook-shaped finger from the big knuckle on the hammer-on, yank down, out, and return, right? And that gives you... right there. And so if you want, like, I mean, this is a pretty complicated exercise, but it's a good one to work up to. So the exercise, if you do it fast, sounds like this, and I'll break it down. So. So what I'm basically doing is that kind of an 8-note pattern on each string. You could do this in any key. Right now I'm thinking of this basically as like G major or E minor, so I'm starting on the F sharp. And I hammer on F sharp, G, A, and then pull off those. And then slide up to G, and then hammer on A, B. Right there. And then I move down to the C on the next string and do the same idea using the same scale. C, D, E, back to C, slide up to D, and then hammer on E, F sharp. And then same thing, I start on G, and then I'm on D now. And you can end on A if you want. You can keep going if you want. It's just, I mean, you can literally just do it on one string. Alright, but the idea is to combine hammer-ons and pull-offs. Another thing that you can do is literally take your left hand and do hammer-ons ascending, pull-offs descending, right? No right hand at all, to really test how crisp and clean you can make those hammer-ons and pull-offs. And remember, it's in the technique. You have to stay relaxed and you have to use the joints as they're intended. You can't try to muscle your way and aim and be very specific. Get your finger aiming towards its target beforehand and simply engage one joint, and you'll be able to snap your finger with a really fast motion right towards it. And that's sort of the main basis behind hammer-ons and pull-offs. So if you have any questions, please feel free, contact me, reach out, and I'll try to address any issues. If you feel like sending me a video of your playing, send me a video. I'm open for private lessons and questions of all kinds. So if you got anything that you need help with, hit me up. I'd love to hear from you. And if you could like, share, and subscribe the video, that would help me out, helps keep me doing these videos for you guys, and helps keep things free. So enjoy it and have a good time.